business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the pod.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal, every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. My guest today, I just spent 10 minutes with him. What he does is very personal to me. And so I'm excited for you to listen because he's going to light you up. He's lit me up already. He's motivating me. He's going to motivate you and he's going to challenge you. And most importantly, you're going to walk away with tools, inspire action, both in your life and in the lives of others. So get ready to take notes. And before we dive in, here's your homework. How will you serve yourself and others today? It doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. You're going to want to do that today, definitely. Let's discover how servant leadership in business can create a ripple effect that lasts far beyond the bottom line. And a quick shout out to my sponsor, Epic Impact. I use this 4-step process to transform how I pitch, how I post, and how I podcast. Engage, persuade, inspire, and close with clarity. I love it because I use it daily. Grab your free trial at epicimpact.ai with promo code Steve to inspire action today. Quick shout out to my audience and guests, including my guest today. We had top 6 in small business marketing of all podcasts. And that's because of you sharing, impacting, and giving gifts to people out there. So let's keep impacting together and making a difference. With that being said, let's welcome Mark to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Certified financial planner. There's many, many, many different ones. Why did you get into it?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different nicknames out there for the concept of financial advisor, and I guess there's nothing except the certified financial planning professional designation. Very few people have that designation, but there's hundreds of thousands, almost 1 million financial professionals across the country. And, there are a number of people who have very little credentials, certifications to back what they're doing to people's money. And we were talking offline just about how it can wreck a relationship if money is not handled properly. It's sort of like dynamite, when handled properly, it can be very helpful. It can clear the way for a road through a cave, whatever. But if you don't have dynamite handled properly, it could be a disaster. And, money is itself a very volatile substance. Again, if the person handling it has flaws in the foundation, there's going to be cracks and explosions. And that was me. I didn't know much about money as a kid and got through my college years, graduated in undergrad and grad school in 2008. What a great time to be looking for work, Steve, by the way, 2008. I graduated with 6 figures of student loan debt and no plan to pay it off. Now, the debt was a problem, but the bigger problem was there was no plan. I had no way of knowing how I was going to handle this albatross around my neck. My wife and I jokingly say I married 2 women in college, my beautiful wife, and also Sally Mae was along for the ride. And we wanted to divorce that second wife as fast as possible. So I found myself taking on all kinds of side jobs and shoveling snow in the Chicago winters. One of my favorites was they handed me a wet dry vac, a suck it out vac, to get underneath a broken elevator. I was working for a property management company just to pay the bills, Steve, just to pay this enormous $3,000 a month payment toward our student debt. We were trying to throw everything we could at the problem, and it just felt like we were making no progress. And the more I thought about it, the more I hated it because I was in my early 20s at the time, and found myself throwing the best dollars of my life. The younger you are, the more valuable that money in your pocket is today because of what's called opportunity cost. The compounding nature of money is if you spend it now, $1 in your pocket now might be worth $12, $15, $18 over your lifetime if you're in your 20s. Not so if you're in your 50s, 70s, whatever. Yeah. So those younger dollars, I felt just like, oh my goodness, I'm spending the best dollars we'll ever have toward a hole. We're throwing our money in a hole. And so that was what got me focused on this thing called money, and how my wife and I got focused on getting better than debt free. It was another adventure altogether.
That story's amazing, and it probably helps you serve your clients better. I always say this is that financial industry is an industry that's lacking servant heart. Maybe I'm wrong,
Right.
but I've
That's right.
seen too many stories. How do you serve your clients with that servant heart to make a difference?
Well, so imagine going into a movie theater about 45 minutes late, and you're in the theater and you're wondering, who are the characters? What's the plot? Why is that person punching that guy? Why did that girl kiss that guy? Who's the villain? Who's the hero? It's hard to know when you're 45 minutes into a movie. Most people live their lives with money sort of like walking into a theater about 45 minutes too late. They don't know what a 401k is, or should you get that credit card? Is it right to pay off my house early? Should I, invest in crypto, et cetera, et cetera? What we end up doing is we end up just hearing something on CNBC or whatever, and we pick up that shiny rock and we put it in our backpack. And not to mix metaphors, but it's like we're walking through the woods, backpack full of rocks. Just grab a pretty rock and put it in our backpack. Ooh, nice Roth IRA. I'll take one. Ooh, pretty credit card. I'll take one of those. My buddy told me to get into crypto. I'll get some of that. And over time, all we have is this big old ugly bag of rocks. And we have what? We have no strategy, and there's no plan. And more importantly, we don't know what our money is doing for us. And maybe even more to the point, we don't know what we want our money to do for us. We just have a bunch of nouns in our back pockets: 401k, savings account, crypto. We don't know what the verbs or the adjectives are. And unfortunately, that means we become the slave to money instead of it being the other way around.
Oh man, I love how you just described that. The great analogies with that. Let's switch gears here a little bit, because all this shows that you know what you're talking about and you care about people, which I love. And audience, I'll get his contact information at the end, because you're going to want to reach out to him if you don't have a certified financial planner. It's a must. But let's talk about, I love the title of your podcast, Not Your Average Financial Podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's I think oh so average pathways that most people sort of default into. It's the cow paths of most people's lives. Grow up, get a credit card, get a savings account, get some student loans, get a 401k, get a house, get a couple of car loans. Hopefully, prayerfully gather as many assets under someone else's management as possible, and then hopefully, prayerfully retire someday. On what? I don't know. The average 401k balance for a 55-year-old as of this year is 160,000 bucks. For a 55-year-old, Steve, 160 grand. Now, some people are like, wow, that's a lot of money. No, it's really not. If we're going to turn that into income for life, that equates to about 300 bucks a month. So the reason we say not your average financial podcast is twofold. One, we're thinking differently about our money, our world economy, and our future. And I think that has to happen because the traditional way to think has led us down a pathway that leaves us in debt up to our eyeballs and throwing money into things that we can't afford to lose. Now, that's the first reason. The second is a little more technical, a bit more nerdy, which I've got a little bit of the nerd juice in my DNA, I think. So let's have a little fun with math for a second here. Let's say that I found this great investment and you and I put our money into it. You put 10,000 bucks into this investment. And let's say that the investment doubled in the first year. That's a positive 100% return, right? And then in the second year, so your 10,000 bucks grew to $20,000. So far, you feel great. I feel great too. The next year, your $20,000 unfortunately stumbles and we lose 50% of the value. Your 20 grand falls all the way back to the original 10,000 that you started with. Steve, do you feel any wealthier after 2 years?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no. So what's funny is financial advisors, regular ones, oh so average ones, are allowed to advertise to you and to the public that you got a 25% rate of return over 2 years. How is that possible? Well, let's do the math. Let's do the math on this. Yeah, every 401k statement has an average rate of return on it, and it's total falsity. So 100% up, negative 50% down, that's 50, right? 50 total. Divide by 2 years, that's an average rate of return of 25%. This is a regular SEC approved way to analyze your 401k, your IRA, whatever, but it's absolutely false. What we really need is something more accurate, something like an internal rate of return or a compound annual growth rate. It doesn't matter. But the point is, this is one of 1,000 ways that Wall Street is pulling the wool over our eyes while the wolf runs into the sheep's pen.
That's a crazy. I mean, I lost $10,000. That's how I look at it. You can tell
Right.
me
Yeah.
25%, 30%, 38%, 10,000 is gone.
Yeah.
I
That's
can't
right.
play with and use anymore. Wow.
That's right.
Well, again, that's called Not Your Average Financial Podcast. It's a new podcast for me because I love finance and I love learning. Talk about with your clients, those challenges are like, I'm in a deep hole, Mark. I can never get out of it. What do you tell
Oh,
them?
sure. Well, we work with quite a few different folks. So, in our recent book, The Business Fortress, How to Grow, Protect, and Exit Your Business with Confidence, we're really zoning in on the business owner in particular. And in that case, yes, the business in many ways, is under a lot of assaults, attack, mainly through regulations, but also through banks. Banks are the most profitable industry in the world, in all of human history. In fact, there's a great book out there. I don't like all the conclusions, but I like the title. The book is great too, but it's a little bit much for me. But the book is titled "Debt: The First 5,000 Years." It's by David Graeber, and the title says it all, Steve. It just tells us that banks and debt have been around for as long as there's recorded human history. And so when we work with folks that are in a deep hole, it's usually because the bank has attach themselves to the business or to the family, and they feel like that's all there's ever going to be. And we have to help them realize that if they are on a debt cycle, if they're on a debt escalator that keeps going up and falling down and going up, and pay, crawl, scratch your way to debt free only to fall down to the next car loan or student loan or whatever again, or business line of credit, the best way to do it is not to continue on, and not even to just save up a bunch of money and pay cash for stuff. It's to think differently about how we do our banking. And I would say, and we said this before we hit record, the banking function in your business or in your personal life is the most important asset class in your portfolio. So that's more important than what stocks you picked, or, what your rate on your mortgage is or whatever. It's so important that you do your own banking, that you bring banking back in-house again. We've outsourced, we've exported our power to the banking industry, and that's why 34% of a business's revenue is going to service or pay down debts. 34%, my friend. That means if time is money, Steve, that means a third of the business owner's waking hours is just servicing debt. He's an employee to the bank. He's not even in business for herself. So yes, to answer your question, one of the first things we try to help our clients do, our business owners in particular, is how do we help bring back in the banking function into the business? How do we bring it back into the family? How do we sit on the right side of the banker's desk? Because whoever's sitting on the right side of the banker's desk will win the financial game. It doesn't matter, again, what other financial decisions you're making, how few lattes you bought last week, how often you didn't dine out. Doesn't matter. What matters to me as a certified financial planner is who's in control of the banking function in your life.
It's powerful. We'll jump in the book in a second, but what came to my mind as you're talking is money is so emotional. I told you my story when you mentioned it earlier, which I love. Talk about mindset with money. I'm sure you help with that too.
Yes, absolutely. There's certainly a questions and statements that we all make in our minds, in our hearts. We have I think one of the most important assets. I call them the four currencies. There's a nice acronym. It spells team, and that's the four currencies of our life. Money is one of them. That's the M in team. The others are time, energy, attention. Money would be the M. So time, energy, attention, and money. So when it comes to mindset, we are looking at all of our major currencies and we're saying to ourselves, oh, I'll never be wealthy, or, oh, I'm worth X number of dollars. Isn't it interesting how many lottery winners end up going bankrupt a year or two later? Isn't it interesting that most NFL players who, when they quit or, their contracts are up, they end up in bankruptcy court? It's just interesting to me that people who have a certain level in their mind of what they think they're worth, they're going to rise or fall to that. People who get the big promotion end up blowing it because they believe they should be back down at 15 bucks an hour or whatever. So these are the things that we really try to explore in our relationship conversations with our clients. We have one-on-one meetings with folks, and a big chunk of that meeting is not just data entry, how much is in your IRA, whatever. It's tell me your story with money. What was it like with your parents in your financial life with your parents? What's your first memory with money? How did you recover from your first money mistake? Or do you think you've never made a money mistake? Because we all have. So these are questions that I think help elicit a better discussion and real discussion. How do you deal with money conflict with your spouse or with your business partners? These are parts of how we interpret and how we pay attention. There's that word again, to this thing called money. Because what we pay attention to, well, it's an idea of investing, isn't it? We attend to something, we pay attention to something, we invest our time in something. The more we have an attention towards something, that's where really our interpretations come from. Do we believe we're unlucky with money? Do we think that we're going to just fall for every scam or scheme? These are the things that we really have to suss out in our one-on-one conversations. It's so valuable to me. I love this part of this part of the work as a CFP.
Well, now I know why your superpower is listening and asking questions and the deep
Yeah.
questions, which I like, because you got to get deep with this. You can't say, "Oh, I buy Starbucks every month. I'll just stop that or every day." Yeah,
Right.
okay, but that saves you $200, but you're 80,000 in debt. That you're years away from solving that problem. Jump into the
Right.
book again. I know
Sure.
you mentioned briefly title of the book and what are we going to get when we read the book? Oh yeah, perfect. What are
Yeah.
we going to get when we read this book?
You're going to get the key. For those that
Ah,
can't see the video, there's a giant key on the top of this, on the cover of this book. But David C. Barnett is a business consultant and has been for many years. He's worked with folks at all levels of the business spectrum, but I'd say most helpful in that mid to upper mid market. We're past the solopreneur stage, but we're really getting to that teenager awkward phase in the business where we're bringing on more business on employees. We've got some good revenue, but we're really trying to figure out how do we make it a sustainable business that we can grow, scale, and then ultimately exit with confidence. And again, cash flow is big, liquidity is huge. And where do we keep our cash in the midst of growing our business? How do we appropriately value the business? What are some exit options where we can leave with more profits and get that payment from the new buyer? There's so many like charts, graphs, lists. It's what I wish I had read when I first started my business. And I cannot say enough good things about David's skills. And, I did my very best to keep up with him in the book. He and I co-authored the book here. But I would say if you're looking for a field guide on how you could run a successful business of somewhere between 500,000 net profit up to 3 to 8 million net profit, that's the aim of what we're looking to help our the businesses do in this space. It's that small mid-market business owner that's saying, I survived on grinning and bearing the first 2 or 3 years as a solopreneur. Now I've brought on a few other team members. How do I scale this thing so that I don't mess it up? And more importantly, so that the banks don't attach themselves like leeches on our back to suck us dry.
I love the book because what comes to mind to me is what you don't know, and you remove that.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Here's all the things you
That's
need
right.
to do. I'm going to make this statement, and audience, you can email me with negative. That's a financial Bible
There you
that I
go.
go
Yeah,
to, right? Oh, powerful, powerful.
that's right.
What's the name of the
Yeah.
book again?
And the name of the book is The Business Fortress: How to Grow, Protect, and Exit Your Business with Confidence. And for those that are interested, we can give a free chapter of the book, as well as some extra goodies of the field guide worksheets that you can go through. If you go to newbankingsolution.com, that's newbankingsolution.com. And David and I prepared sort of a kit to give you more than what even the book can hold, and we could squeeze into this book. So that's newbankingsolution.com.
And we'll put that in the chat, audience, if you can't write it down, or just that's why I love podcasts. You just can reverse a little bit and slow it down and write it down. Very cool. So this is a question I'm going to ask you. I think you can answer, but it's a tough question for a lot of financial advisors. What's the biggest financial mistake people make?
Well, there's so many levels we can go to there.
Yeah.
I'll just come with the first one that comes to mind. One of the biggest, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the biggest is, again, being told to do something and then just accepting it as fact. rather than saying, let's get down to the root cause, let's get down to the function. So I'll give you an example. When you're an employee, you are just handed a binder and told to sign here, and you get your 401k, you get your vision, dental, whatever, medical, whatever. But think about this. Does the 401k do what you want it to do for you? Does it do with your money what you want it to do for you? So the biggest mistake is not taking that extra 3 to 6 minutes and just creating on a legal pad a list of adjectives and verbs. What do I want my money doing for me? Does the 401k meet those objectives? Great. Pour all of what you can in there. But if it's antithetical to your desires, if you believe that taxes are going to go higher in the future, what mathematical sense does it make to put your money in a 401k?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So most people never stop and think about it, and they go 40 years and never think about that. So that's just one example. What do you want your money doing for you? Force yourself to come up with at least 15 adjectives. I'll give you just a couple just to get folks started. We can go further if you want, but how about liquidity? That's an adjective, meaning access to money. How about protection? How about guaranteed rates of return? How about tax-free access to the cash? How about bypassing probate? We were talking about estate planning. What if it just bypassed all this mess and went right to your beneficiaries without having to go through the courts? How about privacy? If you ever got sued, God forbid, would you want it to be protected from lawsuits or bankruptcy proceedings, et cetera? That's just a short list, but give yourself that time to start writing those things down now before you collect that big bag of rocks that we talked about earlier.
That's not $1 million golden nugget. That's a $50 million golden nugget, what you just put. Because here's what I'm hearing from you. And Mark, you're brilliant, because YouTube ads, everything, the TV ads, all these financial things, how do we vet them? What I don't know. Yeah, I'll just dive into that. Next time I've lost $100,000. I've heard you probably hear it all the time, like I do, because of what you do. So what you do then is, if I get something and you're my financial planner, you can help me vet it. Go, hey, I just saw this, Mark. Walk us through that before we get to the end here.
Yeah, we've got a full giant database of ideas that folks have brought to me, and we do a lot of vetting and review, and some of them are not worth the paper they're printed on. Others are golden. We need to take a serious look at them for folks in the right circumstance. So yeah, absolutely. And by the way, please be sure to send me this recording so I can share this with my wife. I heard you say, a nice compliment there, so I want to pass the word on to her.
What's your wife's name?
No, I'm just kidding. No, she's fine. But yeah, her name's Katrina, but she's awesome. She's actually been on a few of the early episodes of our podcast. So she's a big fan of the show. But anyway, yeah, thanks for the compliment. But more importantly, yeah, the biggest thing you can do is just start talking with people who know you inside and out, know what you're trying to do financially, bouncing ideas off of someone who has your best interest at heart, has to legally, as a fiduciary and more. I got to make sure I'm only recommending what's in their best interest. And at the end of the day, I got to sleep well at night. And, I don't want those calls at 3 a.m. saying, hey, something just melted down in China. My stuff's gone to zero. I have never had that experience, thank God, and hope it never does happen. And I want to make sure folks meet their goals without taking any unnecessary risks.
And then really quick, the flip side is, if you're a financial planner, advisor, whatever, title they have, and they're not doing the job, get the hell out.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's something called the sunk cost fallacy, where you think, well, I met he's my buddy from college, or, he's my cousin, or she's my aunt, or whatever. Really just ask yourself, if I'm paying real money, or if I'm losing, my investments are real money that I'm losing, you're not obligated to put food on their table. That's their job. All right. And the sunk cost fallacy is a real thing, right? If I bought tickets at Disney World and it's a tornado down there, I'm going to leave Disney World, even though I might lose some of the price of the admission, just because I got to keep myself safe.
Yeah. Very cool. Katrina, shout out to you, because this guy is a rock star.
Appreciate it. Yeah, the checks in the mail, my friend. Thank you.
Check that box. He's a servant. I really appreciate it. Let's end with a fun question here to get know you a little deeper. So I've got a table at a restaurant, reserved for you, table for four. You'll sit in one of the chairs. In those three empty chairs, whether they're dead or alive, who would you invite to really talk to, get to know, get in their head, learn from? But more importantly, I think, what food would you order?
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. This is a great question. I was not prepared to really answer. So let me think about this. Are they all historical or could they be fictional too?
Anything you want. This is wide
Oh,
open.
okay. Okay. Wow. I've always loved what Gandalf had to say to his buddies. And I feel like by the way, I think a good financial advisor is more like Gandalf. He cannot carry the ring for you. He can't do it for you, but he certainly can help clear the Balrogs out of the way, hopefully.
That's
So I'd
great.
say Gandalf would be one to bring to the table. He'd be a cool dude, and he'd probably freak out the waiters. I would say maybe it'd be really cool to see some of these titans of business, like, politics aside. I think Elon Musk has brought so many crazy inventions to our world. Oh my goodness, I would love to see what's inside his mind and hear how he engages some of my questions to him. So that's two. Who's another good one? I'd love to meet somebody who's really changed the way our country is run. And I'm trying to think. I guess Nikola Tesla would be another incredible inventor. He'd be again, folks that just think way outside the box and help bring, new. I mean, every person with a Wi-Fi on their cell phone, it's thanks to Nikola Tesla, right? So people like that would be really fun for me to chat with and get to know. As far as what we'd eat. Um, I don't really have anything that would be just especially. Let me put something out there. How about shepherd's pie? Because I'm a big fan. And
Okay.
then I just am a huge fan. In fact, for my birthday, my wife took me to a Scottish restaurant. We had some delicious shepherd's pie, bagpipe birthday song. It was crazy weird, but fun. And then something else that would take a long time. How about a bottle of wine? So it would take a long time for me to get through that conversation. I don't want these guys rushing off to their next meeting. So how about like a super expensive bottle of wine that we can enjoy for 3 or 4 hours? So that's what I'd put down. And then some really good ice cream to top it off.
Table I have to be at because it's interesting. Elon Musk and Tesla, you picked who
Yeah.
Elon Musk is Tesla is named
Oh, yeah.
after
Good point. Yeah.
his company. So it's interesting how subconsciously you did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to blow more edification your way. You are a blessing in the financial industry.
Well,
I
thank you.
love meeting guys like you because you know my story. I've seen the bad, not just from me, but from other people. It can be horrific how financial people can destroy lives. And
Right.
sometimes it's not purposely, sometimes it is, but you're not. You're the true servant's heart. I
Thank you.
know people listening that are thinking, God, I gotta fix my finances. How can they reach out to you and
Yeah.
find you?
Well, if they're a business owner, we really work with business owners
Yeah.
at a specialty in our firm. You'll go to newbankingsolution.com and you'll see a little form there where you can have a 15-minute phone strategy session with me and one of my colleagues. And you can also get access to the book there as well. That's newbankingsolution.com. If, on the other hand, you're looking more of a family style conversation on a one-on-one basis, we have another site you can go to. It's called kickstartwithmark.com. Either site will bring you to the same place, my calendar. So that's kickstartwithmark.com. And I would be happy to meet with you and go through this conversation series with you. And more importantly, stick with you for life. That's part of what we do in our firm.
Yeah, I'm glad you finished. What a great way to finish because that's when the financial advice, when you find one, until they pass, of course, that they're like your brother. I mean, my
Yeah.
finance, she's female. She's like a
Yeah.
sister. She's
That's
become a
great.
friend after 15, 20 years. So
Oh, that's great.
this is awesome. Thanks again, Mark. Again, Krachina, he's a rock star.
All right.
Saying it. Score points.
There you go.
Here's your homework at the end. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this is a perfect show to do that because finances, you need people, you know, business owners, share this link with them and get to learn. I've got a couple I'm going to share it with to show them how they can be better in their finances, have their own bank. Oh my God, the thought of that just makes me hungry. I don't know why it makes me hungry, but it makes me excited. So subscribe, and it doesn't have to be our podcast. How about the say your podcast again?
Not your average financial podcast.
Subscribe to that one because guess what? Every time we get a link from somebody from a podcast, that's a gift you can give to other people, especially in finances. We already talked about how emotional it is. So subscribe here to Mark's or whoever, and share and share and share. With that being said, me and Mark want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.